unassuming Saturday where we kick up our training shoes and try to ignore our looming deadlines. I'm Shifu Payne and listen, England, we need to talk.
I know you want to hang with the big boys and be this high-tier country with every finger in a pie, coming out of the EU, trying to get out of the pandemic, only to change your mind every 5 minutes, without even mentioning how you elected a prime minister that's basically a Poundland former president.
But let's not get too high and mighty and forget that nearly everything about England is borrowed from other countries.
Tea, Indian, fish and chips, Spanish. Literally the entirety of the British Museum is borrowed from the places we conquered and invaded. England didn't even come up with the empire idea on its own!
Yes, we're talking about Rome today, and specifically we're talking about a segment of Roman culture that is ubiquitous and that everyone thinks of when they think of ancient Rome. After pizza, and the Leaning Tower, and Rhodes, and Caesar, we're talking about gladiators.
Despite their reputation as a bloody sport, people killing each other for the entertainment of a coliseum's worth of people, gladiators were actually probably the closest equivalent to sports stars in a historical context.
That's right, MMA was also an idea from Rome. So, grab your copy of Russell Crowe's Gladiator and cast it into the fire where it belongs.
Know your fucking place, trash!
And let's take a look at gladiators. So let's start by turning to our friend etymology by first asking the question, what does the word gladiator even mean?
The word gladiator is actually the late Middle English of the Latin word gladius, meaning sword. The gladius was a sword of the ancient Roman foot soldier. What made the gladius so formidable was that it was much smaller than the bigger, heavier, more unwieldy swords it faced in combat. So the average soldier could be faster, nimble, and have more endurance because they weren't carrying around a giant stabby stick.
Okay, so we have the meaning behind the word gladiator, which is stabby object. So, how did gladiators get started?
On that, like all our favourite historical topics, there's no clear or agreed upon answer.
Fuck's sake.
What we do have are accounts. One from Nicholas of Damascus claimed that the practice of gladiatorial matches was a concept borrowed from another Italian civilization, specifically the Etruscans. The Etruscans were a civilization that lasted from the 8th to the 3rd century BC, and had previously covered what is now modern-day Tuscany, West Umbria, North Lazao, parts of the Po Valley, Emilia-Romagna, southeastern Lombardy, South Veneto, and Campania. So, what happened to the Etruscans?
Well, this is a video about Rome, so take a fucking guess.
The Etruscans were absorbed into Roman culture, and the language and culture phased out as people were ingratiated in. But we don't care about all of this. We want blood. It's now time to play through our Sims Gladiator Edition and control a day for our new gladiator. So, here we have Joas Gladiator. Wow, with a name like that, you could say he was born to be a gladiator. He's been training for today for the last 3 years, being taken into the Ludus Magnus in Rome after signing up to support his family. Yes, first surprise of the day, not all gladiators were slaves. As the momentum for gladiators grew, people actually began to sign up voluntarily for the job. Now our boy was taken under the wing of a former gladiator or a doctorus.
All in all, there are 4 different kinds of gladiators that a person could train to be in. And much like modern day boxers or MMA fighters, they were separated by weight class and by build.
They are the Samnites, the Frakes, the Momelo, and the Rotirius. And our boy Joas is not the brawniest horse at the barn, so he's trained to be slight and nimble rather than a damage sponge. So he's been trained by his doctorus to be a Frakes, named after the Thrace or modern Bulgaria, and were made immediately recognizable by their shield, which was small and rectangular, standing out from, say, the Samnites, who had a larger rectangular shield. The Frakes were built to be quick and agile, so their weapons and armor reflected this need, starting with their default weapon, the Sissa. A weapon that could be mistaken for a sword or a dagger, the Sissa had a curved edge to the blade, with the added advantage of reaching those hard-to-defend areas. The lack of weight also made the Sissa faster to use.
Which clearly and definitively proves it's not the size of your sword, but what you do with it. Although, if your sword is curved, it might be best to consult your doctor.
The frakes were modelled as well on the mythical animal of the griffin, with this being more reflected in their helmet, known as a galea. The helmet of the frakes had a wide brim, a crest or lophos on the crown that typically held a griffin as an ornament. The eye openings on the helmet would also be very small, because why make it too easy? With his helmet, scissor and shield, along with adding the armoured padding of the manica on the right arm as well as the leg pads, both made of leather, our Joas is ready for his debut. Oh, but first he needs to stop to pray to Mars and Pluto. Should probably have done that yesterday, mate.
Well, while you're here, best pray to Victoria as well, mate. You're gonna want that victory.
He's nervous, but not as nervous now. Keep your stomach, lad. Don't let your vegetarian breakfast go to waste. Yes, gladiators were mostly vegetarian based on skeletal evidence.
Which I'm sure vegetarians and vegans will not shut up about.
You can feel the palpable excitement in the air as the Colosseum is up to its eyeballs in spectators. This match has been promoted for the last 2 weeks, so there is a lot of hype. But sadly for our boy, the hype is not for him. No one knows who he is. No, the hype is for his opponent, the net fighter, the people's champion, the heartthrob of Roman girls the empire over, Marcellus, the Sea Prince.
Now, don't laugh. How could a gladiator possibly fight with a net and a giant fork?
Marcellus is a retiarius, modelled after fishermen to be more relatable to the crowd. The retiarius specialises in distance, with more visibility as he doesn't wear a helmet. He can trap opponents with his net and safely fly off from a longer range with his trident. And despite his critics saying he's just a pretty boy, many hold a candle, especially as he's been rumoured to be a child of Neptune, given both his skill and his looks. Poor Joas could be in trouble. If Marcellus catches him with the net, it's all over. Not to mention the knife retiarii often kept on their person, making close quarters just as risky as a distanced approach. The referee has brought them to the centre to remind them of the rules. They submit by putting a finger up, no killing each other, no changing weapons other than the ones given, and listen for instructions from the referee. With that, a fight begins. Marcellus is immediately straight back to go to his sweet spot. Joe needs to close the gap or risk getting caught with that net. Marcellus jabs with the trident, but Joas dodges. This is an odd fight to put together. I said that the different classes were like modern weight classes, and with that, each class worked with or against another kind of class. But as you can see, the retiarius and the frakes are exact opposites of each other.
But puncher's chance. Let's see what happens.
Marcellus throws another jab, but Joe is ready for it and parries with his shield. He's closing the gap. Marcellus wants to retreat. The trident is not as useful in close quarters, but Joas keeps the heat on. He swings and the scissor connects with the armored plating on Marcellus' shoulder. They're clinching now. The shield has been caught by Marcellus' trident. The referee may need to step in. Marcellus throws Joas to the ground. Marcellus has much more of a size advantage. Marcellus has his net still. He has the chance to throw it at Joas, but if he misses, it could cost the fight. Joas has been allowed to get back up. He could be showing sympathy to the fresh-faced frakes. Joas has dropped his shield. Looks like he's setting something up. Marcellus seizes his chance and jabs at the now defenseless Joas. But this is interesting, as Joe catches the trident. He's trapped it with the scissor. He's evening the field as he kicks Marcellus away. Retiarii wear very little armor, only their manica and their shoulder guard or galerius. Getting the trident away from Marcellus could give Joas his opening, but Marcellus still has the net, so he tangles Joas up in it. Joas could be in trouble now. Entangling himself could cost precious seconds. Marcellus draws closer, ready to end the fight. Remember, gladiators cannot kill their opponents, just injure so that they cannot continue. Joe throws a strike at Marcellus' leg, and it connects! Looks like he nicks Marcellus above his leg pad. Marcellus has lost his footing and is on top of Joe! Joe slashes at the back!
I've heard of stabbing in the back, but I never thought it would be quite so literal.
The referee has gotten them to stand. Marcellus rises fine, gets his trident, but Joas is having problems. He must still be too green and have gone winded. Wait! He's been stabbed! Let's go to the replay. Marcellus snuck in the knife to the side when he fell. Joas cannot continue. The fight is over. It may not be flashy, but Marcellus, the Sea Prince, has won the fight!
So that was only a taste of what a gladiatorial battle would have looked like. And outside of those 4 variants of gladiators that I mentioned earlier, there are actually way more versions of gladiators. So the possibilities are quite endless for what sort of gladiatorial battles could have been witnessed within the Colosseum. And, interestingly, there is a chance that you could see one of these such battles yourself.
Much like medieval fairs where there are jousting and night battle reenactments, gladiator reenactments can be found, mostly in Europe and America. These kinds of gladiator fights in schools can be found in the tourist trade or various clubs, recreating this custom for the modern audience. Interesting.
Although, for the tourists' sake, let's just hope the local emperor does not decide to make this a to-the-death bout, as those happened on occasion. But with that being said, what are the major takeaways?
What is indicated most is that the divide that a lot of people have when discussing history is not as great as people think. We tend to think of it as just being in the past, so like another country or even planet, and in no way similar to our own customs. But as it turns out, you can take the society out of the Rome, but you can't take the Rome out of the society.
Or maybe it goes hand in hand with our idea that humans are somehow superior to our less evolved sharers of this orb. If it's anything to go by with gladiators, MMA fighters, or here on this channel, it's clear that the common factor between a lion and a human is blood and the love of it. Man, vampires really get more of a bad rap than we think. Thank you all for watching this week's video, and in the comments let me know what you would prefer, gladiators or UFC fighters. I think it's quite obvious who I would prefer myself. Vikings. But with that, until next time everyone, peace be with you.
I need tea after this.